So, dear students, I am Adnan Hussain, lecturer in English, Dhaka College, and today we will have a discussion on completing sentence. Completing sentence is a topic which you practiced at your SSC level, but there is a little bit difference. At the SSC level, there were only a single sentence which you have to complete. But at the HSC level, we see that often there are two sentences. You have to complete one sentence, but that particular sentence is connected to another one, and there should be a unity of meaning as well. A unity of meaning, unity of context, what we say. So, in this regard, we need to practice this topic very well. So let's start today with completing sentence. What we are going to do is we will practice some important structures, and after showing how to complete those sentences based on the particular structures, if you practice at your home, inshallah, you will be able to solve any question related to completing sentence. So let's focus on the structure. The first structure is to plus adjective plus to. So this is the first structure, that is 2 plus adjective plus 2, and how we can complete it. Let's have an example, like suppose this is the incomplete part and you have to complete this part. The old man can't move, he is too old. Then what will we do? We will use a to, then a main verb. He is too old to walk. That is, the old man is too old to walk. The basic structure is 2 plus adjective plus 2 plus main verb. Now, often we used to extend these things. Like, suppose you are writing that he is too old to walk in this burning heat. He is too old to walk because of his being old. That's up to you. But the basic structure is 2 plus adjective plus 2 plus main verb. And bear in mind, it is better to be confined within the basic structure as long as possible, because do not produce any sentence which is structurally wrong while you are trying to make your sentence lengthy. Because length doesn't matter. In this case, what is matter is the grammatical correctness. So I hope that you will bear this in your mind while solving this problem in your examination. Now, If the second structure is 2 plus adjective plus 4 plus subject, what is that? The structure is the structure is it is the little boy can't understand the sum, অর্থাৎ ছোট ছেলেটা অঙ্কটা বুঝতে পারছে না, it is too tough for him, then what will we do? It is too tough for him to it is too tough for him to solve it. That is, the basic structure is when we are writing 2 plus adjective plus 4, then there will be the objective form of the subject, then 2 plus main verb plus you can put down the object if necessary, if not then that is not necessary. So this structure differs from the earlier one in which respect? In the earlier structure we see that the structure was like 2 plus adjective and then we used to see the preposition to, but here we will see the preposition for. Now when we see the preposition for, of course we have to understand that we must turn the objective form of the subject and then we have to use the preposition to, then the main verb, then object. That's all. One particular thing we have to remind about the last structure, that is, often students say that, sir, if suppose the objective form of the subject is given after the for, then we understand that there will be a 2 plus main verb. But a smart question setter, what he will do is he will stop after giving the word for. That is, you have to use the objective form of the subject if the subject is, for example, third person singular number and it is male, masculine gender, then you may use him. If the subject is female, then you have to use her, and if the subject is first person, then you have to use me. This is actually the technique about which you have to be cautious. Then let's see what's about so that. So that in fact it's a kind of connecting phrase. How? It often joins two clauses, like Life is very hard in the desert. The nomads work very hard, were very tough in the desert. The nomads work very hard so that. In Bangla, the meaning of so that is jate. That is, nomads means the jajabot, Bangla যেটাকে বলা হয়. Here we can say that this sentence is speaking about the Bedouins. So the nomads, they work very hard. বেদুইনরা কিংবা যাযাবররা খুব কঠোর পরিশ্রম করে so that যাতে then we will use the pronoun form that is they, the nomads. This subject is the plural one, so the subject plus can so that they can survive. The nomads work very hard so that they can survive. That is, life is very tough in the desert and the nomads work very hard so that they can survive. So what is the structure? The structure is actually, we are using this they. They is the subject. This subject refers to what? This subject refers to the nomads. And then we are using the word can. This is a modal verb. And then we are after this modal auxiliary, we are using the relevant main verb. Now the very question is, if we say that the nomads work very hard so that they can survive, we are using this can, or we can using this may. Here we can using here may. Can or may can be used. We are using can or may because this is in the present tense. But we will use could or might if this if were in the past tense. If this sentence were in the past tense, then of course we will use might or could. So we have to focus on the tense. We have to remember about the tense of the sentence while we are completing a sentence. Suppose this sentence is in present tense, you can't use any past tense here. There will be no unity. But if this sentence is in past tense, in most of the cases you have to use past tense here. So the unity of tense is very important. Since there are two since, that is, there are two uses of since, this word. That is, one is when we are referring to a cause, another is when we are speaking about a particular time. So here, while we are referring the time, we will use this word since. And what is the grammatical structure when we are using the word since in terms of time? He is a very close friend of mine. However, it is long since. What will I do when I see this structure? It is long since. That is, the structure used before since is in present tense. So what we will do, it is long since we met. The structure after the clause which we will use after since will be in past tense. So if the clause used before since is in present tense, the clause used after the word since will be in past tense. But if I say he was a very close friend of mine, however, it was long since we had met. That is, it was long since we had met. So here we see when the clause before the since will be in simple past tense, then the clause after since will be in past perfect tense. So when we are speaking about past perfect tense, let's see how can we complete a sentence when there will be a past perfect tense. In the past perfect tense, we have two connectors, that is before and after. Two prepositions, they are used as connectors. Now, what will we do when before will be used at the sentence and what will we do when after will be used at the sentence? The man was very sick. He had died before the doctor came. So if the sentence, the question stops here, that is, you have to complete the sentence after putting down something after this connector before, then what we will have to do? We will have to put a clause in simple past tense, because the clause used before this word before, it is in past perfect tense. So before the word before we will use past perfect tense, and after the connector before we will use simple past tense. It will be just reversed if we use the connector after here. What will we do? The man was very sick. He died after the doctor had come. So, what we see in this structure, that is, when we are using this character after, before this character after, we will use simple past tense. But after this character after, we will use past perfect tense. So, there is a kind of pun or rhyme. Before the before, it will past perfect tense. After the after, it will be past perfect tense. So after অর্থাৎ after এর পরে, after this after, past perfect tense, before the before, that is before শব্দটার আগে, it will be past perfect tense. Regarding until or unless, these two words are actually what? These two words are actually negative words. So when we use these negative words, what we see, these are we are actually what we are doing. We can't use anything negative after using these words in a particular sentence, because they themselves are negative. For example, unless you work hard, you will fail in the exam. I will wait until you return. So these two are basically what? These two are basically two words when they are being used. What we have to do is we will not use anything negative, because they themselves are negative. Lest. The word lest, it is something which refers to the word পাছে কিছু হয় or নতুবা. So you are very lazy, work hard lest you should fail. So this is something which is very important, that when you are using this word lest, you are using a subject, then should, and then main verb. So subject plus should plus main verb. When you are using the word lest, you are using the auxiliary verb should after the subject while completing the sentence. This word as long as means what? This word as long as means it is a kind of word that is যতক্ষণ পর্যন্ত. So here wait as long as it rains. So when we are using this word as long as, this phrase, we have to keep in mind that we must preserve the unity of tense. That is, it was raining, so we were waiting as long as it rained or as long as it stopped. When it is past tense here, of course we will use past tense here and of course here. But when it is present tense, of course we will use present tense after as long as. So the unity of tense, it should be kept in mind. You are very lazy, so you had better work hard. When we are using had better, would rather, had rather, then we will complete the sentence with a main verb. That is, after had better and would rather, we will use a main verb. See, had better plus main verb. You had worked hard. Then you can say to prosper in life, you had worked hard to prosper in life, you had worked hard to achieve a good grade in the examination. That is different issue. That is what extension you are using. But if you use the main verb and extension and then stop here, there is no problem. But you have to keep in mind that after had better, after would rather, there will be what? There will be main verb. He speaks as if he were a man. He spoke as though he had been a man. Now, let's see here. Speaks. After the verb speaks, then we are using as if. Then, when we are completing it, we are completing it with subject plus where plus extension. Then, when we are using the word as though, we are using the subject, then had been, then the extension. What is the difference? That is, here we are using the present form, the main verb, present form of the main verb before the phrase as if. So, when we complete the sentence, the structure will be subject plus past form, then the extension. When we are using any to be verb, it will be where, irrespective of the subject. That is, if you say that sir, this subject is actually what? It is actually singular number. So, aren't we supposed to use was here? No, you are not supposed to use was, because in this case you have to use the verb, to be verb where. But when before as though or as if you are using the simple past tense, then of course after as though or as if it will be what? It will be past perfect tense. And as we are using a to be verb here, the past perfect form of the past participle form of be is been. That's why we are using been. If we suppose using something else, that like he speaks as if he knew everything. He speaks as if he knew everything. Then when we are using he spoke as though, he had known everything. So when we are using this word, he had known everything, here the structure is subject, then had plus the past perfect form of known, and then the past perfect form of know, past participle form, the past participle form of know, and then the extension. So the basic structure will be, in case of as if or as though, if we use simple past tense before as if or as though, then we will use simple present tense after as if or as though. If we use simple past tense before as if or as though, then we will use past perfect tense after as if or as though. So simple present tense, simple past tense, simple past tense, past perfect tense. We are already late. It is time to start. So, the structure is, when we are saying that we are already late, then we will use the word it is time, then we will use to, then we will use main verb. But if any subject is used after this phrase it is time, then what will we do? It is time we started. It is time we started our journey. We are already late. It is time we started our journey. Here, when we are saying that it is time, then we are using a subject. If we use a subject after this phrase it is time, then what will we do? We will use this technique, that is the past form of the main verb and then extension. It is time we started our journey, because we have a subject after this phrase it is time. But if we have no subject, then it is time 2 plus. I would rather die than beg. We know that when we are using the word would rather, then we are actually using this this present form of the main verb. But when we are using this then what will we do? We will use another main verb, but of course it will have a contrasting meaning with the previous one. Because would rather is something, would rather means borong, ami borong mole jabo, bhikha korar chahiye. So it is something contrast. So we will use a verb which contrasts here. So see this one. This structure, as soon as the teacher entered into the classroom, the students stood up. So this new structure, it focuses upon the phrase as soon as. As soon as it means actually মাত্রই। শিক্ষক ক্লাসে ঢোকা মাত্রই ছাত্ররা দাঁড়িয়ে গেল। Here we have to keep ourselves in mind, that is, there will be unity of tense here. So the clause with as soon as, it will, if it is in past tense, of course the clause after this comma, it will be also in the past tense. And we see that the structure is the subject, then main verb, then if you use any extension then you may use, but the subject is the structure is the subject plus the main verb. No sooner had the teacher entered into the classroom than the students stood up. Here we find another structure, that is, in case of no sooner, we see that the past perfect tense, it will be used with the clause which has this phrase no sooner. Then after this then, we are using the students stood up. So no sooner had the teacher entered into the classroom than the students stood up. After this then, we are using this subject, this second one, and then we are using a past tense. So basically, in terms of meaning, no sooner is actually a kind of negative form of as soon as. While we are using as soon as, it is referring মাত্রই, no sooner করতে না করতে, খাইতে না খাইতে, যাইতে না যাইতে, so, and that's all. The same structure, that is scarcely had when, The difference is often the question setters, they try to use a twist to baffle the very ordinary students. That is, oh, I haven't seen this structure, scarcely had when. Same as the previous one, no sooner had that, scarcely had when. Now, this is a very common structure, but often we make mistakes in these very common sentences. In Manga, there is a proverb that is "Pocha shamuke pakata." So often we have such accidents. That is, after two, we know that except some exceptional cases, we use main verb plus object, but if we use any other preposition here, that is for, then we will use he is working hard for earning money. While we are saying that he is working hard to earn money. He as well as his friends. If we use the phrase as well as, or either or, neither, nor, not only but also. Sorry. As well as, along with, together with. When we are using these phrases, here we will use is coming. That is, he as well as his friends is coming. So when we are using this phrase as well as, we will follow the first subject. But if two subjects are joined with either or, either he or his friends, then we will follow the second subject. That is, either he or his friends are coming. Neither he nor his friends are coming. But he as well as his friends is coming. He along with his friends is coming. He together with his friends is coming. So dear students, today it is up to this, and we will inshallah meet on the next class. Up to then, stay safe.